gunshot exploded through the night. Sarah screamed. Jake spun around. His 5-year-old daughter stood in the doorway, eyes wide with terror, a smoking gun in her tiny hands. At her feet, a man in black lay bleeding in the dirt. Before we continue, if you're new here, welcome. I create interesting audio stories perfect for your commute, workout, or whenever you need a good tale. Hit that like button if you enjoy stories like this. Subscribe so the next one finds you automatically. And I love connecting with listeners. Drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. New York, Canada, United Kingdom? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's continue the story. Jake Collier stood in the middle of the dusty street and stared at the little girl on the porch. She had his eyes, dark brown, curious. She was playing with a wooden horse. Her brown hair was tied back with a blue ribbon. She wore a simple dress that looked homemade. Her feet were bare. Jake's chest felt tight. 5 years. 5 years since he rode away from this town. 5 years since he left Sarah Hayes standing in front of the church, alone and pregnant. 5 years of running, stealing, and trying to forget what he'd done. Now he was back. The little girl looked up. She saw him watching. She didn't smile. She just stared. Jake took one step forward. "Emma, get inside." Sarah's voice came from the doorway. "Cold." Jake stopped walking. Sarah Hayes stepped onto the porch. She was 28 now, but she looked older. Her face was harder. Her eyes were colder. She wore a brown dress and an apron stained with flour. Her blonde hair was pulled back tight. She looked beautiful. She looked like she hated him. "Sarah," Jake said. His voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. "I came back." "I can see that," Sarah said. She put her hand on Emma's shoulder. "Emma, go inside." Emma didn't move. She kept staring at Jake. "Who's that, Mama?" Emma asked. Sarah's jaw tightened. "Nobody important. Go inside." Jake felt those words hit him like a punch. Emma finally turned and ran into the house. The door slammed shut. Sarah crossed her arms. She didn't come down from the porch. She didn't invite him closer. "You got no business here, Jake," Sarah said. "I came to see my daughter," Jake said. "Your daughter?" Sarah's voice rose. "You don't have a daughter. You left before she was born. You never sent a letter. You never sent money. You disappeared like smoke." Jake looked down at the dirt. He knew she was right. "I know I did wrong," Jake said. "I know I can't fix what I did, but I want to try. I want to meet her. I want to help." Sarah laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Help?" Sarah said. "Jake, I don't need your help. I've been doing fine without you. Emma doesn't even know who you are, and I plan to keep it that way." Jake looked up. "She deserves to know her father." "Her father?" Sarah's eyes flashed. "A father doesn't run away. A father doesn't abandon his family. You're not her father, Jake. You're just the man who got me pregnant and left." The words stung, but Jake didn't argue. He deserved every bit of her anger. "I was scared," Jake said quietly. "I was young. I didn't know how to be a father. I panicked." "You were 27 years old," Sarah said. "That's not young. That's old enough to know better." Jake nodded slowly. "You're right. I was a coward. But I'm here now. I want to make it right." Sarah stepped down from the porch. She walked toward him slowly. Her hands were clenched into fists. "You can't make it right, Jake," Sarah said. "You can't undo 5 years. You can't give Emma back the father she needed when she was a baby. You can't give me back the nights I stayed up alone, wondering how I'd feed her. You can't fix this." Jake's throat felt thick. "I can try." "No," Sarah said. She was close now, close enough that he could see the pain in her eyes. "You can't, because I won't let you hurt her the way you hurt me. I won't let her love you and then watch you leave. So do us both a favor. Jake, get on your horse and ride away, just like you did before." Jake shook his head. "I'm not leaving." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Then I'll make you leave. This town already hates you. Sheriff Dawson would be happy to run you out. One word from me and you're gone." "I'm not breaking any laws," Jake said. "You broke my heart," Sarah said. "That's enough." Jake looked at her. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to tell her why he really left. He wanted to tell her about the gang, about the debt, about the danger he'd brought to their door, but he couldn't, not yet. "I'm staying at the old boarding house," Jake said. "I'm not leaving town. I'll give you time to think, but I'm not giving up on Emma or you." Sarah's face went pale. "There is no you and me, Jake. That died the day you rode away." Jake nodded. "I understand, but I'm still here." He turned to walk away. He stopped. He looked back. Sarah's face was hard, but her voice shook just a little. "Why now?" she asked. "Why come back after 5 years? What changed?" Jake hesitated. He couldn't tell her the truth. The truth was that the gang had found him. The truth was that they wanted him back. The truth was that if he didn't do what they asked, they'd come to Redemption Creek and burn it to the ground. The truth was that he came back to protect her, but he couldn't say that. "I grew up," Jake said finally. "I realized what I lost. and I decided I'd rather die trying to fix it than live knowing I didn't." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned and walked back to the house. The door slammed shut. Jake stood alone in the street. He heard a sound behind him. He turned. A man stood in front of the general store. He was tall, thin, and wore a black hat. His face was hidden in shadow. Jake's blood went cold. He knew that shape. He knew that stance. It was one of them. The gang had already found him, and they were watching Sarah's house. Jake didn't move. The man in the black hat stood across the street. He didn't wave. He didn't call out. He just stood there watching. Jake's hand dropped to his hip, but he wasn't wearing a gun. He'd left his gun belt at the boarding house. He'd wanted to look peaceful when he came to see Sarah. That was a mistake. The man in the black hat tilted his head slightly. Then he turned and walked away. He disappeared around the corner of the general store. Jake's heart pounded. He'd hoped he had more time. He'd hoped he could talk to Sarah first. He'd hoped he could explain everything before they showed up, but hope didn't matter now. Jake walked quickly toward the boarding house. He kept his head down. He watched every shadow, every doorway, everywhere. The boarding house was at the end of Main Street. It was a 2-story building with peeling paint and a crooked sign. Mrs. Chen owned it. She was a small Chinese woman who'd come west with the railroad workers. Her husband died in a mine collapse. Now she rented rooms to drifters and travelers. Jake pushed open the door. Mrs. Chen looked up from behind the front desk. She was reading a newspaper. She wore a simple black dress and had her gray hair tied in a bun. "Mr. Collier," she said. Her voice was calm. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Something like that," Jake said. He headed for the stairs. "There was a man here earlier," Mrs. Chen said. Jake stopped. He turned back slowly. "What man?" Jake asked. "Tall man, black hat. He asked if you were staying here. I told him no." Jake felt relief wash over him. "Thank you." Mrs. Chen folded her newspaper. "I don't know what trouble you're in, Mr. Collier, but I don't want it in my house. If that man comes back, I'll tell him the truth. I won't lie twice." Jake nodded. "I understand." He climbed the stairs to his room. It was small, just a bed, a chair, and a wash basin. His saddlebags were on the floor. His gun belt hung on the bedpost. Jake closed the door. He locked it. He sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. This was going wrong fast. He'd come back to protect Sarah and Emma, but now the gang knew where he was. They'd send more men. They'd start asking questions. They'd figure out that Sarah was important to him, and then they'd use her to control him. Jake stood up. He paced the small room. He had to think. The gang wanted him to do a job, a big job. They wanted him to rob the bank in Cheyenne. It was a 3-man job. They needed someone who knew how to crack safes. That was Jake's specialty. If he did the job, they'd leave him alone. They'd leave Sarah alone. They'd leave Emma alone. If he refused, they'd kill him. And maybe worse. Jake had 3 choices. 1, do the job, rob the bank, and go back to being an outlaw. Leave Sarah and Emma behind again. 2, run. Leave Redemption Creek tonight. Draw the gang away from Sarah and Emma. Keep running forever. 3, fight. Stand his ground. Protect Sarah and Emma. Probably die trying. Jake walked to the window. He looked out at the street below. The sun was setting. The sky was turning orange and purple. The town looked peaceful, but peace was a lie. Violence was coming. Jake knew it in his bones. Someone knocked on the door. Jake spun around. His hand went to his gun. "Mr. Collier?" Mrs. Chen's voice came through the door. "Someone's here to see you." Jake didn't answer. "It's the sheriff," Mrs. Chen said. Jake relaxed slightly. He crossed the room and opened the door. Mrs. Chen stood in the hallway. Behind her was Sheriff Tom Dawson. Dawson was a big man, 50 years old, gray hair and a thick mustache. He wore a brown vest and a silver star. His hand rested on his gun. "Sheriff," Jake said. "Jake Collier," Dawson said. His voice was flat. "I heard you were back in town." "News travels fast," Jake said. "It does when you're as unwelcome as you are," Dawson said. "Can I come in?" Jake stepped aside. Dawson walked into the small room. Mrs. Chen disappeared down the hallway. Dawson looked around the room. He saw the gun belt. He saw the saddlebag. "Planning to stay long?" Dawson asked. "Haven't decided yet," Jake said. Dawson turned to face him. "Let me help you decide. You're not wanted here, Jake. Sarah Hayes made that clear to me about an hour ago. She came to my office. She asked me to run you out of town." Jake's chest tightened. "And are you going to?" Dawson was quiet for a moment. "I should. You left that girl high and dry. You left her pregnant and alone. You're a coward and a deserter. If I had my way, I'd throw you in a cell just for being a bad man." "But," Jake asked. "But you haven't broken any laws," Dawson said. "Not in my town, anyway. I heard rumors about what you've been up to the last 5 years. Rumors about robberies, stagecoach holdups, bank jobs. But rumors aren't evidence." Jake said nothing. "So here's how this is going to work," Dawson said. He stepped closer. "You can stay in Redemption Creek for now. But if you bother Sarah, I'll arrest you for harassment. If you go near that little girl without Sarah's permission, I'll arrest you for trespassing. If you cause any trouble at all, I'll find a reason to lock you up. Do you understand me?" "I understand," Jake said. "Good," Dawson said. He walked to the door. Then he stopped. "One more thing. Why'd you come back, Jake? What do you really want?" Jake met his eyes. "I want to be a father. I want to make things right." Dawson stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "Some things can't be made right," Dawson said. "Some mistakes are permanent." He left. Jake heard his boots on the stairs. He heard the front door close. Jake sat on the bed. Dawson was right. Some mistakes were permanent, but Jake had to try anyway. He waited until it was full dark. Then he strapped on his gun belt. He put on his hat. He blew out the lamp. He left the boarding house through the back door. The streets were empty. Most people were home having dinner. Jake moved through the shadows. He stayed away from the main street. He headed towards Sarah's house. He wasn't going to knock on the door. He wasn't going to talk to her. He just wanted to watch. He wanted to make sure the man in the black hat didn't come back. Sarah's house was small. It sat on the edge of town. There was a fence around it, a small garden in the front, a chicken coop in the back. Jake crouched behind a tree across the street. He watched the windows. He could see light inside. He could see shadows moving. Sarah was putting him to bed. Jake watched for an hour. Nothing happened. No man in a black hat. No danger. No trouble. Maybe he was being paranoid. Maybe the gang was just watching him. Maybe they weren't going to make a move yet. Jake was about to leave when he saw something. A figure moved in the darkness near the chicken coop. Jake's hand went to his gun. The figure was too small to be a man. It was a child. It was Emma. She was sneaking out of the house. Jake's heart jumped. He stood up. He started to cross the street. Then he stopped. Emma wasn't alone. Another figure appeared. This one was tall, wearing a dark coat. The figure bent down and picked Emma up. Emma didn't scream. She didn't fight. She went limp in the person's arms. Jake's blood turned ice. Someone was taking his daughter. Jake ran. He crossed the street in a second. He drew his gun. "Stop," he shouted. The figure turned. It was a woman, not the gang. It was a woman Jake didn't recognize. She was young, maybe 25. She had red hair tied back. She wore a dark traveling coat. She held Emma in her arms. Emma's eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. "Put her down," Jake said. He pointed his gun at the woman. The woman smiled. "Hello, Jake," she said. Voice was soft. Jake's mind raced. He knew that voice. "Who are you?" Jake demanded. "You don't remember me?" the woman asked. She tilted her head. "I'm hurt. We were so close once." Then it hit him. "Lily," Jake whispered. "Lily Malone." She'd been part of the gang. She'd been the one who taught Jake how to pick locks. She'd been the one who rode with him on his first job. She'd also been the one who got caught. The last time Jake saw her, she was being dragged away by federal marshals. That was 6 years ago. "Thought I was dead?" Lily asked. "Or in prison?" "Both," Jake said. "I got out," Lily said. "Early release, good behavior." She smiled wider. "Turns out I'm very good at behaving." "What are you doing here?" Jake asked. "Why do you have Emma?" "The boss sent me," Lily said. "He wanted to make sure you understood the situation. He wanted to make sure you knew we were serious." Jake's finger tightened on the trigger. "Put her down now, or what?" Lily asked. "You'll shoot me, you'll wake up the whole town, you'll bring the sheriff running, and then what, Jake? How do you explain why you're here with a gun? How do you explain who I am? How do you explain your connection to an outlaw gang?" Jake didn't move. Lily was right. "The girl's fine," Lily said. She looked down at Emma. "I gave her something to help her sleep. She'll wake up in a few hours. She won't remember anything." "Give her to me," Jake said. "Not yet," Lily said. "First, we talk. The boss wants an answer, Jake. Are you going to do the job or not?" "I need more time," Jake said. "You've had 5 years," Lily said. "That's enough time. You either do the job or we start hurting people you care about, starting with this little girl." Jake's jaw clenched. "If you hurt her, you'll what?" Lily interrupted. "You'll kill me? You'll kill the whole gang?" "Jake, you're one man. We're 12. You can't win this fight." Jake knew she was right, but he also knew he couldn't do the job. If he robbed that bank, he'd be a wanted man. He'd never be able to stay in Redemption Creek. He'd never be able to be Emma's father. "When's the job?" Jake asked. Lily's smile returned. 3 days. We're hitting the bank in Cheyenne on Saturday morning. You'll meet us at the old ranch outside of town on Friday night. We'll go over the plan. And if I do this, you'll leave Sarah and Emma alone?" Jake asked. "Cross my heart," Lily said. She shifted Emma in her arms. "Now I'm going to put this little girl back in her bed. You're going to walk away. And you're not going to tell anyone about this. If you do, the boss will know, and he'll send people to hurt Sarah. Do you understand?" Jake nodded slowly. He lowered his gun. Lily walked past him. She carried Emma toward the house. Jake watched as Lily opened the back door. The door wasn't locked. Lily slipped inside with Emma. Jake stood in the darkness. He felt sick. He'd come back to protect them. Instead, he'd brought danger right to their door. A few minutes later, Lily came back out. She closed the door quietly. She walked past Jake without looking at him. "See you on Friday, Jake," she said. Then she disappeared into the night. Jake stood there for a long time. Then he heard something, a sound from inside Sarah's house, a scream. Sarah had found Emma unconscious in her bed. Jake wanted to run to her. He wanted to explain. He wanted to tell her everything, but he couldn't, not yet. He turned and walked away. Behind him, he heard Sarah's voice calling for help. He heard doors opening. He heard neighbors running over. He heard Sarah crying, and Jake kept walking, because right now the best way to protect them was to stay away, even if it killed him to do it. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat in his room at the boarding house. He listened to the sounds of the town waking up. He heard roosters crowing. He heard wagons rolling past. He heard people calling to each other. He heard the doctor's carriage racing towards Sarah's house. Jake stood at the window and watched. The whole town was awake now. Everyone was talking about what happened. A little girl found unconscious in her bed. No signs of injury. No explanation. The doctor stayed at Sarah's house for 2 hours. When he left, Jake saw Sarah standing in the doorway. She looked exhausted, terrified. Jake's hands curled into fists. This was his fault. He'd brought this on her. Someone knocked on his door. Jake turned. His hand went to his gun. "Collier," Mrs. Chen's voice called. "The sheriff is here again." Jake opened the door. Sheriff Dawson stood in the hallway. His face was hard, angry. "We need to talk," Dawson said. "About what?" Jake asked. "About Emma Hayes," Dawson said. "She was found unconscious in her bed last night. The doctor says someone drugged her. Someone broke into that house and drugged a 5-year-old child." Jake's stomach twisted. "Is she okay?" "She's awake now," Dawson said. "She doesn't remember anything, but Sarah is scared out of her mind, and I want to know what you know about it." "Nothing," Jake lied. Dawson stepped closer. "You show up in town after 5 years. That same day, someone attacks your daughter. You expect me to believe that's a coincidence?" "I don't know anything about it," Jake said. Dawson stared at him. "Where were you last night?" "Here," Jake said. "In my room." "Can anyone confirm that?" Dawson asked. "Chen can tell you I didn't leave through the front door," Jake said. Dawson's eyes narrowed. "But you could have left through the back." Jake said nothing. "I'm going to find out what happened," Dawson said. "And if I find out you had anything to do with it, I'll make sure you hang. Do you understand me?" "I didn't hurt Emma." Jake said. That much was true. Dawson turned to leave, then he stopped. "Sarah wants to see you," Dawson said. Jake's heart jumped. "What?" "She came to my office this morning," Dawson said. "She said she needs to talk to you. I don't know why, but I'm going to escort you to her house, and I'm going to be standing right there the whole time. If you upset her, if you threaten her, if you do anything I don't like, I'll arrest you. Are we clear?" Jake said. 20 minutes later, Jake stood on Sarah's porch. Dawson stood behind him. His hand rested on his gun. The door opened. Sarah looked terrible. Her eyes were red from crying. Her hair was messy. She still wore the same dress from yesterday, but she was alive. And Emma was alive. That was all that mattered. "Sarah," Jake said quietly. Sarah looked at him. Her eyes were cold, but there was something else there too. Fear. "Come inside," Sarah said. Jake stepped into the house. Dawson followed. The house was small but clean. There was a kitchen on one side, a sitting area on the other. A narrow staircase led to the second floor. Emma sat on the floor near the fireplace. She was playing with her wooden horse. She looked pale but otherwise fine. She looked up when Jake entered. "Who's that, Mama?" Emma asked. Sarah's jaw tightened. That's Mr. Collier. He's an old friend." Emma stared at Jake. He looked sad. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened them. "Emma, go upstairs," Sarah said. "Play in your room for a bit." "But Mama, now, Emma," Sarah said. Her voice was firm. Emma stood up. She carried her wooden horse upstairs. Her little feet thumped on the wooden steps when she was gone. Sarah turned to Jake. "What did you do?" Sarah asked. Her voice shook. "I didn't hurt her," Jake said quickly. "I swear, Sarah, I would never hurt her." "Then why?" Sarah asked. Tears filled her eyes. "Why did someone break into my house? Why did someone drug my daughter? What's happening, Jake?" Jake looked at Dawson, then back at Sarah. He couldn't tell her the truth, not with Dawson standing there. "I don't know," Jake lied. Sarah's face crumpled. "You're lying. Can see it in your eyes. You know something. You know who did this." Jake said nothing. Sarah stepped closer. "Tell me the truth, Jake. I need to know if my daughter is safe." Jake wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to tell her about the gang, about the debt, about Lily, about the job they wanted him to do. But if he did, Dawson would arrest him. And if Dawson arrested him, Jake couldn't protect Sarah and Emma. Your daughter is safe, Jake said. I promise you that. How can you promise that? Sarah asked. You don't even know what happened. I just know, Jake said. Sarah stared at him. Then she laughed. It was a broken sound. You haven't changed, Sarah said. You're still a liar. You're still keeping secrets. You're still the same man who ran away 5 years ago. Sarah, get out, Sarah said. Get out of my house. Get out of my town. I don't care what Sheriff Dawson says. I don't care what the law says. I want you gone. I can't leave, Jake said. Why not? Sarah demanded. Because if I leave, you'll be in more danger, Jake said. The words hung in the air. Dawson stepped forward. What does that mean? Jake realized his mistake. Nothing, Jake said quickly. I just meant no, Dawson interrupted. You said she'd be in more danger. That means you know there's danger now, which means you know who broke in, which means you're involved. Jake's mind raced. I'm not involved, Jake said, but I have enemies, bad people. They might have followed me here. They might have been trying to send me a message. What kind of enemies? Dawson asked. Jake hesitated. Outlaws, Jake said finally. People I used to ride with before I left Redemption Creek. Sarah's eyes went wide. You were an outlaw? I did some bad things, Jake admitted. After I left here, I fell in with the wrong people. I helped them rob stages, rob banks. I'm not proud of it, but I got out. I've been clean for 6 months. I came back here to start over. Dawson's hand tightened on his gun. You're confessing to robbery. I'm telling you the truth, Jake said. And the truth is that my old gang might be here. They might be trying to pull me back in. They might have hurt Emma to prove they're serious. Sarah put her hand over her mouth. Oh my God. But I won't let them hurt her again, Jake said. He looked at Sarah. I swear to you, Sarah, I'll keep Emma safe. I'll keep you safe, even if it kills me. Why should I believe you? Sarah asked. You left me once. Why wouldn't you leave again? Because I'm not the same man I was, Jake said. I've changed. I've seen what my choices cost, and I won't make the same mistake twice. Dawson pulled his gun. Jake Collier, you're under arrest. Jake didn't move. Sheriff, if you arrest me, you'll be signing Sarah's death warrant. The only thing keeping that gang away right now is me. If I'm locked up, they'll come for her. Then tell me who they are, Dawson said. Tell me their names. Tell me where to find them, and I'll arrest them instead. Jake shook his head. You can't arrest them all. There's too many. And if you try, they'll scatter. They'll come back later when you're not expecting it. So what do you suggest? Dawson asked. Give me 3 days, Jake said. Let me handle this. Let me end this. And then I'll leave town. I'll turn myself in. I'll face whatever punishment you think I deserve. Dawson laughed. You must think I'm an idiot. I think you care about this town, Jake said. I think you care about Sarah and Emma. And I think you know I'm your best chance of keeping them safe. Dawson looked at Sarah. What do you think? Sarah wiped her eyes. She looked at Jake. I think he's a liar and a coward, Sarah said. But I also think he's telling the truth about the danger. I felt it last night. Something's wrong. Something bad is coming. She took a deep breath. Give him 3 days, Sarah said. But if Emma gets hurt again, I'll kill him myself. Dawson holstered his gun. Fine, 3 days. But I'm watching you, Jake. Every move you make. And if I see you doing anything illegal, I'll shoot first and ask questions later. Understood, Jake said. Dawson looked at Sarah. Lock your doors. Keep Emma inside. If you see anyone suspicious, you come get me immediately. Sarah nodded. Dawson left. Jake and Sarah stood alone in the small house. Upstairs, Emma was singing a song. Something about horses and sunshine. I hate you, Sarah said quietly. Jake nodded. I know. But you're Emma's father, Sarah continued. And she deserves to know you, even if you're a terrible person. Even if you break her heart the way you broke mine. Jake's throat felt tight. I won't break her heart. You already did, Sarah said. You just don't know it yet. Sarah walked to the stairs. She stopped. What's the plan? Sarah asked. How are you going to end this? Jake didn't answer right away. The truth was he didn't have a plan. He had 3 days before the bank job. 3 days to figure out how to protect Sarah and Emma without becoming an outlaw again. 3 days to do the impossible. I'm working on it, Jake said. Sarah looked back at him. You better work fast. She went upstairs. Jake stood in the empty room. He heard Emma's voice. Mama, can the sad man stay for lunch? He heard Sarah's voice. No, honey, he has to go. Emma's voice again. Why is he sad, Mama? A long pause. Then Sarah's voice, very quiet. Because he lost something important, and he's trying to find it again. Jake left the house. He walked through town. His mind was racing. He needed a plan. He needed help. He needed Jake Collier. Jake turned. A man stood in the alley beside the general store. He was young, maybe 25. He wore a black coat and a black hat. It was the same man Jake had seen yesterday. My name's Cole, the man said. I work for the boss. He sent me to check on you. Make sure you're still planning to show up on Friday. I'll be there, Jake said. Cole smiled. Good, because if you're not, we're going to burn down Sarah's house with her and the kid inside. Jake's blood boiled. You touch them, we won't have to touch them, Cole said. As long as you do what you're told. Simple as that. Cole tipped his hat. See you Friday, Jake. He walked away. Jake stood in the alley. His hands shook, not from fear, from rage. These people threatened his daughter. They drugged her. They terrified Sarah. And now they expected him to just roll over and do what they wanted. Jake made a decision. He wasn't going to run. He wasn't going to do the job. He was going to fight, but he couldn't fight alone. He needed ally. Jake walked to the sheriff's office. Dawson was sitting at his desk. He looked up when Jake entered. What now? Dawson asked. I need your help, Jake said. Dawson leaned back in his chair. Why would I help you? Because you want to protect Sarah and Emma, Jake said. And so do I, which means we're on the same side. Keep talking, Dawson said. Jake closed the door. He sat down across from Dawson. There's 12 of them, Jake said. They're camped outside of town. They're planning to rob a bank in Cheyenne on Saturday. They want me to help them. If I don't, they'll hurt Sarah and Emma. So turn them in, Dawson said. I'll get a posse together. We'll arrest them. They'll see you coming, Jake said. They'll scatter, and then they'll come back later for revenge. We need to catch them all at once. We need to end this permanently. Dawson frowned. Jake leaned forward. I'm going to meet them on Friday night, Jake said. I'm going to pretend I'm doing the job, but instead I'm going to lead you right to them. You'll surround the camp. You'll arrest them all. And what makes you think they won't kill you first? Dawson asked. They might, Jake admitted. But it's the only way to keep Sarah and Emma safe. Dawson studied him for a long moment. You really care about them, Dawson said. More than anything, Jake said. Dawson nodded slowly. All right, I'll help you, but on one condition. What's that? Jake asked. When this is over, you turn yourself in, Dawson said. You face charges for whatever crimes you committed with that gang. You do your time, no running, no excuses. Jake thought about it. If he went to prison, he wouldn't see Emma grow up. He wouldn't be there for her birthday, her first day of school, her wedding. But if he didn't stop the gang, she might not live long enough for any of that. Deal, Jake said. Dawson stood up. He held out his hand. Jake shook it. We've got 2 days to get ready, Dawson said. I'll gather men I trust. You stay close to Sarah's house. Keep watch. Make sure nobody else tries anything. I will, Jake said. Jake left the sheriff's office. He walked back toward the boarding house, but he didn't go inside. Instead, he walked to the edge to the small cemetery on the hill. He found a spot under a tree, a spot with a view of Sarah's house. He sat down and he watched. He watched Sarah hang laundry in the yard. He watched Emma play with her wooden horse. He watched the sun move across the sky. He stayed there all day. And when night fell, he was still there. Protect, because that's what fathers did. Even fathers who'd failed. Even fathers who were running out of time. The next morning, Jake woke up stiff and cold under the tree. He'd fallen asleep watching Sarah's house. He stood up slowly. His back ached. His legs were sore. But Sarah and Emma were safe. That was all that mattered. Jake walked into town. He needed coffee. He needed food. He needed to think. The diner was full. People stared at Jake when he walked in. They whispered to each other. Everyone knew who he was now. The man who abandoned Sarah Hayes. The man who came back and brought danger with him. Jake sat at the counter. The waitress, a middle-aged woman named Betty, poured him coffee without a word. Jake drank it slowly. He heard the door open behind him. Footsteps approached. Someone sat down next to him. Jake turned. It was Sarah. She looked tired, but determined. I need to talk to you, Sarah said. Jake nodded. Sarah looked around. Everyone was watching them. Not here, Sarah said. Somewhere private. They walked to the old church at the edge of town. It was empty, abandoned. Nobody had held services there in years. Sarah and Jake sat in the front pew. Emma asked about you this morning, Sarah said. She wanted to know why the sad man was at our house. Jake's chest tightened. What did you tell her? I told her you were someone I used to know, Sarah said. Someone who went away, someone who came back. Jake nodded. But she kept asking questions, Sarah continued. She wanted to know why you looked sad. She wanted to know if you were lonely. She wanted to know if you needed a friend. Sarah's voice broke. She has your kindness, Jake, Sarah said. Even though you've never been there for her, even though she doesn't know you're her father, she still has your heart. Jake felt tears sting his eyes. Sarah, I need you to promise me something, Sarah interrupted. I need you to promise me that when this is over, when the danger is gone, you'll let me tell her the truth. You'll let me tell her you're her father. Jake stared at her. You want me to stay? No, Sarah said. I want you to go. I want you to leave Redemption Creek and never come back. But before you go, I want Emma to know who you are. I want her to know she had a father, even if he wasn't a good one, even if he left her. Why? Jake asked. Sarah wiped her eyes. Because she deserves the truth, and because someday when she's older, she'll wonder, she'll ask questions, and I want to be able to tell her that you cared, that you tried, that you died protecting us if that's what happens. Jake shook his head. I'm not going to die. You might, Sarah said. You're going up against 12 armed men. The odds aren't good. I have Dawson, Jake said. I have a plan. Plans fail, Sarah said. People die. I just want to make sure that if something happens to you, Emma knows the truth. Jake reached out slowly. He took Sarah's hand. She didn't pull away. I promise, Jake said. When this is over, I'll tell her myself if I'm still alive. Sarah squeezed his hand. And if you're not, I'll tell her you were brave. I'll tell her you came back. I'll tell her you tried to be better. Thank you, Jake whispered. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sarah pulled her hand away. I should go, Sarah said. Emma's with Mrs. Porter next door. I don't like leaving her for too long. Sarah stood up. Jake stood too. Sarah, Jake said. I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for hurting you, for bringing danger to your door. I'm sorry. Sarah looked at him, really looked at him. I know you are, Sarah said. But sorry doesn't change the past. It only changes what happens next. She walked toward the door. Sarah, Jake called. She stopped. She didn't turn around. I love you, Jake said. I never stopped. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I know, she said softly, but love isn't enough. It never was. She left. Jake stood alone in the empty church. Friday came too fast. Jake spent the days watching Sarah's house. Dawson spent the days gathering men. Good men. Honest. Men who could shoot straight and wouldn't run when things got dangerous. By Friday afternoon, everything was ready. Jake met Dawson at the sheriff's office. I've got 8 men, Dawson said. That's all I could find. 8 against 12. Not great odds. We'll have surprise on our side, Jake said. That counts for something. Dawson nodded. You know where the camp is? Old Harmon Ranch, Jake said. About 5 miles north. It's been abandoned for years. Perfect place to hide. We'll follow you at a distance, Dawson said. When you give the signal, we'll move in. What's the signal? Jake asked. A gunshot, Dawson said. Any gunshot. We hear shooting. We come running. Jake nodded. Dawson put his hand on Jake's shoulder. You don't have to do this. We could just ride out there and arrest them. They'd see you coming, Jake said. Someone would get killed, maybe Sarah, maybe Emma. This is the only way. You're a brave man, Jake Collier, Dawson said. Stupid, but brave, Jake smiled. As the sun set, Jake saddled his horse. He checked his gun. He said a prayer he didn't think anyone heard. Then he rode north, toward the old Harmon Ranch, toward the gang, toward whatever fate waited for him. The ranch appeared in the darkness like a ghost. Old buildings, broken fences, ghosts of a life that used to be. Jake saw a campfire. He saw horses. He saw men moving in the shadows. He rode into camp slowly, his hands visible, his gun holstered. A man stepped out of the darkness. It was Cole. Jake Collier, Cole said. Right on time, the boss will be pleased. Where is he? Jake asked. In the barn, Cole said. He's waiting for you. Jake dismounted. He followed Cole to the barn. Inside, 11 men sat around a table. Maps were spread out. Guns were laid out. Supplies were stacked in the corner. And at the head of the table sat a man Jake hadn't seen in 6 years. Frank Malone, Lily's brother, the gang's leader. Frank looked older now. He had a scar across his left cheek, a reminder of the knife fight that nearly killed him. Jake, Frank said. His voice was like gravel. Welcome home. Jake said nothing. You look good, Frank continued. Clean living suits you. But that's over now. You're back where you belong, with us, with family. This isn't my family, Jake said. Frank's eyes went cold. Oh, really? Then what is? That woman, that little girl? They're not your family, Jake. They're nothing. They're weakness. Jake's hands curled into fists. Frank stood up. He walked toward Jake. Here's how this is going to work, Frank said. Tomorrow morning, we ride to Cheyenne. We rob the bank. We split the money 12 ways, and then you're free. You can go back to your woman. You can play father to your little girl. We won't bother you again. And I'm supposed to believe that? Jake asked. Frank smiled. No, but you don't have a Jake stared at him. Then Jake made his decision. He drew his gun. He pointed it at Frank's head. Actually, Jake said, I do have a choice. The barn went silent. Every man in the room drew their gun. 11 guns pointed at Jake. Jake kept his gun on Frank. You shoot me, they kill you, Frank said calmly. I know, Jake said, but you'll be dead, and that's good enough for me. Frank studied Jake's face. You're bluffing. Try me, Jake said. Frank hesitated. Then he smiled. I knew you'd do this, Frank said. I knew you'd try to be a hero. That's why I took out insurance. Frank snapped his fingers. 2 men dragged someone out of the shadows. It was Sarah. Her hands were tied. Her mouth was gagged. Her eyes were wide with terror. Jake's heart stopped. Surprised, Frank asked. We grabbed her an hour ago, right out of her house. Don't worry. The kid's fine. We left her sleeping. But Sarah here, she's our guarantee. Jake's gun hand shook. You shoot me, my men kill Sarah, Frank said. You drop your gun, Sarah lives. Simple choice, Jake. Jake looked at Sarah. She was shaking, crying, but she was alive. Jake lowered his gun. Smart choice, Frank said. He took Jake's gun. Now, here's the new plan. You're gonna do the bank job tomorrow, and Sarah's coming with us. If you try anything, if you run, if you warn anyone, we kill her. Understand? Jake nodded. Good, Frank said. Now get some sleep. We ride at dawn. Jake was thrown into a small room, locked inside. He sat on the floor. He'd failed. Dawson was out there waiting for a signal, but Jake couldn't give it. Not with Sarah here, not with a gun to her head. He was trapped. Hours passed. Then Jake heard something. A sound outside his window, scratching. Jake stood up. He looked out the window. A face appeared in the darkness. It was Lily. She put her finger to her lips. Then she opened the window. Come on, Lily whispered. We don't have much time. Why are you helping me? Jake asked. Because Frank's crazy, Lily whispered. He's going to get us all killed, and I didn't survive prison just to die in some stupid bank robbery. Now come on. Jake climbed through the window. Lily led him through the darkness, past the barn, past the guards, to where Sarah was tied up in a shed. You've got 5 minutes, Lily said. Then someone will notice you're gone. Use them wisely. Lily disappeared into the shadows. Jake opened the shed door. Sarah looked up. Her eyes went wide. Jake untied her hands. He removed the gag. Jake, Sarah whispered. I'm getting you out of here, Jake said. Sarah asked. There's guards everywhere. I don't know yet, Jake admitted, but I'll figure it out. Sarah grabbed his arm. What about Emma? She's safe, Jake said. She's still at home. Mrs. Porter is with her. Sarah closed her eyes in relief. Then she opened them. Jake, you have to stop them, Sarah said. They're gonna rob that bank. People are gonna die. I know, Jake said. So what's the plan? Sarah asked. Jake looked at her, and then he knew. I'm going to give Dawson his signal, Jake said. Sarah asked. You can't it to your gun, Jake smiled. I don't need my gun. He walked to the door. He looked out. A barrel of gunpowder sat near the barn, left over from some old mining operation. Jake had an idea. Stay here, Jake told Sarah. When you hear the explosion, run as fast as you can toward town. Don't stop, don't look back. Jake, what are you going to do? Sarah asked. Jake kissed her forehead. What I should have done 5 years ago, Jake said. He ran toward the barrel of gunpowder. He lit a match. He threw it. The barrel exploded. Fire erupted into the night sky. The barn caught fire. Men started shouting. Guns started firing. And in the distance, Jake heard horses. Dawson and his men were coming. Jake ran back to Sarah. He grabbed her hand. Run, he shouted. They ran together through the chaos, through the smoke, through the gunfire. Behind them, the battle had begun. Dawson's men surrounded the camp. Outlaws fired back. The night erupted in violence. Jake and Sarah reached the tree line. But Jake stopped. What are you doing? Sarah asked. I have to go back, Jake said. What? No. Sarah grabbed his arm. You'll die. If I don't help Dawson, his men will die, Jake said. I can't let that happen, not because of me. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Jake, please, don't do this. Emma needs you. I need you. Jake cupped her face. That's why I have to do this. So Emma can grow up safe. So you can live without fear. So I can finally be the man you deserved 5 years ago. He kissed her one last time. Then he ran back toward the fire. Jake found a gun lying on the ground. He picked it up. He saw Cole aiming at Dawson. Jake shot him. He saw Frank trying to escape on horseback. Jake shot the horse. Frank fell. He saw Lily hiding behind a wagon. She looked at Jake. She nodded. She dropped her gun and put her hands up. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it was over, 9 outlaws were dead. 3 were captured. Frank was one of them. And Jake was still alive. Barely. He'd been shot in the shoulder, but he was alive. Dawson walked over. He looked at Jake's wound. You need a doctor, Dawson said. I need to see Sarah, Jake said. Dawson helped Jake walk back to where Sarah was waiting. She ran to him. She threw her arms around him. You idiot, Sarah cried. You stupid, brave idiot. Jake held her. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing, Sarah said. Just stop. She kissed him. And for the first time in 5 years, Jake felt like he might actually deserve it. 3 weeks later, Jake stood on Sarah's porch. His shoulder was healing. His arrest had been delayed until he recovered. Dawson had agreed to speak on his behalf at trial. With luck, Jake would only serve a year or 2. But today wasn't about that. Today was about Emma. Sarah opened the door. Emma stood beside her. Emma, Sarah said gently, there's something I need to tell you. Emma looked up at her mother. What, Mama? Sarah knelt down. Remember the sad man, Mr. Collier? Emma nodded. He's not just Mr. Collier, Sarah said. He's your father. He's your papa. Emma's eyes went wide. She looked at Jake. Jake knelt down too. He was at her level now. Hi, Emma, Jake said softly. I know I haven't been here. I know I haven't been a good papa, but I want to try, if you'll let me. Emma stared at him. Then she walked forward slowly. She reached out and touched Jake's face. Why were you sad? Emma asked. Jake's throat felt tight. Because I missed you. Because I didn't know you. Because I made a big mistake. Mama says everyone makes mistakes, Emma said. Jake smiled. Your mama's right. Emma thought for a moment. Can you teach me to ride a horse? Jake laughed. Tears ran down his face. Yes, I can teach you to ride a horse. Can you stay for dinner? Emma asked. Jake looked at Sarah. Sarah smiled. He can stay for dinner. Emma hugged Jake. And Jake held his daughter for the first time. He'd lost 5 years. He'd made terrible choices. He'd hurt people he loved. But he was here now, and that was a start. That night after dinner, after Emma went to bed, Jake and Sarah sat on the porch. I have to turn myself in tomorrow, Jake said. I know, Sarah said. I'll probably be gone for a year, Jake said. Maybe 2. I know, Sarah said. Will you wait for me? Jake asked. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she said honestly. I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if we can ever be what we were. Jake nodded. I understand. But, Sarah continued, I know that Emma deserves a father, and I know that you're trying. So when you get out, you can come back. You can visit her. You can be part of her life. And what about you? Jake asked. Sarah looked at him. Ask me again in 2 years. When you've proven you can keep your promises. When you've shown me you're not the man who ran away. Jake reached over and took her hand. I'll prove it, Jake said. I promise. Sarah squeezed his hand. I hope you do, Jake. I really hope you do. They sat together in the darkness. And for the first time in 5 years, Jake had hope. He'd come back for his daughter. He'd fought for his family. He'd faced his past. And now, finally, he had a future. It wouldn't be easy. It would take time. It would take work. But some things were worth fighting for. Some mistakes were worth fixing. And some second chances were worth taking, even if it took 5 years to get there. The end